Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for this philanthropy panel discussion. I thank my campus colleagues for joining me today. I'm John North, Vice President for University Advancement, and this week is TAG Week, Thank a Donor Week, and part of our efforts to celebrate all the generosity and philanthropy that happens on campus. And we thought we would throw in a panel discussion in this year's event and really celebrate the ways our faculty and staff exhibit generosity, our alumni, our students. And so I want to just first welcome our panel members here. On my far left, Dr. Elisa Wallentine, Dr. Don Dunn, Dennis Troyer, Lisa Downs, and Dr. Brady Bratz. Thank you all. So all of you are alums, all of you are generous to the institution, and we just would love to hear your thoughts today on what philanthropy means in your life, in our students' lives, and the benefits for our campus and really for our world. So I want to start with an easy one, and Brady, I'm going to start with you. And if you could use one word to describe your MNU experience, what would that one word be and why?
You bet. So I think my word would be transformational. I came from a context where I went to high school 30 minutes away from where I went to the Nazarene church that my family attended. So I knew what the Nazarene church was a little bit about, had plenty of Sunday school answers tucked in the back pocket when I went to youth group. However, the opportunity to be here and to be integrated at MNU, to go to class with the same people that I was going to chapel with, the same people I was eating lunch with and dinner with, it was a transformational experience for me of taking all these different versions of Brady that existed in other places and finally being able to bring them together into one person was absolutely astounding for me. And it happened primarily as one of my RAs just kind of loved me into a relationship with the Lord in a meaningful way. He would invite me to go to Campus Center. I'd say, no, man, I know where Campus Center is. And he'd say, no, come on, we're all going together. And slowly but surely, he kind of pulled me into the fold. And so a place like MNU, for me, is a place where I, having worked here, 17, 18 years, something like that now, I still have a debt to pay. I still sense that there is so much more that I have to give than was given to me at this place.
Lisa, what about you?
He stole mine, actually, so I thought of a different one. I would say mine is connection, and part of that is because when I came to Mid-America, it was such an incredible experience for me my 4 years. I met girls on my hall that I'm still friends with today. And we don't see each other a lot, but when we see each other, it's like we pick up where we left off. But not only connection friendship-wise, but connection with faculty and staff who really cared about who I was and invested in my life in an incredible way that I probably would have not received at other places I went to. And also connections job-wise, being able to talk with different teachers in the area, being able to do that. So I would say connection, but in that connection was where my life was transformed, even more so in my relationship with Christ, but also in my relationship with others and my friends.
Great. Dennis?
I think mine, it's a hyphenated, so I think it counts as one word. Life-changing. And I'll just tell you right now, I'm going to cry before this is over, so let's just get that out in front. If it happens, it's okay. Tommy's seen it. It's all right.
We've all seen it.
Yes,
Well,
we have.
A few of them haven't. I came from a farm in Iowa, and driving through Kansas City the first time coming to campus was a traumatic experience. I didn't see any tractors on the interstate, Brady. And getting here, I only knew one person. I knew Ron Seeger because he and I had gone to International Institute together. So I had a roommate from Iowa I'd never met. I had a roommate from southern Missouri I'd never met. I was a shy person growing up, so this was out of my comfort zone. And the experiences that I had here, Bob Drummond was the first person I ever met on campus. He was our dorm dad. And he just took me in and started to develop a relationship that carried on with those guys on our hall, on our floor in Snowbarger. And as you ease into it, people were just so welcoming. They were so kind. They gave an opportunity for me to start spreading my wings and start having belief in myself that I didn't have. There were a lot of people that, I'm going to forget a lot of names if I tried, but there were a lot of people who invested in me, who lived into me and my experience that just changed who I am.
Thanks, Dennis. Don, what about you?
Well, I think I'm going to go with the word preparation, because through chapel services, through classes, I was prepared to enter a deeper and more fulfilling relationship with God. And that really happened in my life here, solidified some things that I learned early on in the local church. I would say preparation for getting along with people, because I was thrust into not Stockton, sorry, wrong place. Snowbarger and Lamphur with roommates that they were really tough to get along with. And so it prepared me for what I might deal with in the future, certainly prepared me for ministry. Even I sensed a call to teach after I was about to graduate here, which kind of threw me off for a little while, and so I developed great relationships with my faculty. And then preparation for marriage, because I met my wife here, so got my MRS degree as well.
Lisa, what about you?
I guess I would use the word pivotal, because if you've ever heard me speak at an event, I always say that when my parents asked me if I'd be interested in coming to MNU, I was in high school, I said I would drop dead before I'd go to a place like that. And I was just my snotty little high school voice. I didn't know who I really wanted to be. I knew I kind of wanted to be a Christian, but I also kind of didn't. And so coming to MNU, Dennis Troyer was very instrumental in getting me here. He worked in admissions, and so I had a great scholarship offer. It just really made sense, even financially, to come here. So I was still kind of deciding who I wanted to be. And so when I came and I saw amazing people, I saw even friends who were living a Christian life that I admired and looked up to and aspired to be. So it was really pivotal in my journey of who I wanted to become.
Thanks, Lisa. We'll give you a chance to go first on the next one. So, in your time as a student, who was the most influential person on your MNU experience?
Well, I can't just limit it to one, but I'll keep it short. You'll know a couple of the people I'm talking about. Mike Goff. Anybody who's come here, his name will probably come up multiple times. So I got to go first, so I took it. Mike Goff was a professor, so involved. Helped me. He was my advisor, so he helped me choose my major. I changed my major while I was here. He helped me. My car broke down. He paid for my car repair. I mean, all that, right? So just this super involved faculty member. Somebody you won't know, her name was Willity Waymeyer, and she was excellent. I don't even know how to describe. She could have taught anywhere. She was so intelligent and and I thought, I want to be like her. And so I want to be a combination of Mike and Willity. You that know, that was my goal, is to be a combination of those. And then Christy Keaton, she loved me through every problem I ever had, and we are dear friends today.
Great, thanks. Don?
Well, of course, I'd have to go with Dennis Troyer, but actually, Dr. Larry Fine was my advisor. And so we spent 4 years together. He was my advisor. And then the pivotal moment came for me in my preparation was, as I was about to graduate, prepared for pastoral ministry, I felt God speak to me very clearly. They wanted me to teach. And I was so confused. So what did I do? I ran to see Dr. Larry Fine. And he said, Don, why don't you go out, practice for a while, get your education, come back in 10 or 15 years and teach for us, and that'll be a powerful combination of education and life experiences. Well, it actually took 30 years, but I did make it back, and Larry and I became colleagues. And what was really cool this year is Larry decided to retire in December, and I'm interim chair of the department, and so he retired under my watch. And so it became full circle. And by the way, I was an usher at KU football and basketball games. I got Larry in at ushering right on the floor in basketball at KU, next to the Crimson Girls, as he says.
That's good to know. All right, Dennis?
Well, I'm going to mention a couple of names. Dr. Robert Sawyer was my advisor, and also had him for a number of Old Testament classes. And he's the one who showed me that shedding tears in public is okay. There were multiple times when he would be teaching and something would touch him so deeply. He was such a tender spirit in some ways that he was not afraid to show how God was overwhelming him with the truth of God's love and mercy and grace, and how he shared that with us. And then Wanda Wood was our administrative assistant. You know, we called them secretaries back then, but administrative assistant in the religion department, and she just welcomed us in to that area anytime when we came in. We'd just go in and hang out. And she carried on conversations, and she just loved us like a mom. And then one of the things I'll never forget, Dr. Carl Cruz was a chemistry professor here, and I had a chemistry class my spring semester of my freshman year, and we had to do a project. And so I decided, because I was interested in athletics, that I wanted to write on artificial turf, which was a new concept, really. So I went to our library and found that the Catholic Encyclopedia had a 1-column, 3-inch long story about artificial turf. So I went to Dr. Cruz and said, you know, I've picked a wrong subject. I need to change. He goes, no. He said, I've got access to the UMKC library. Let's go down there. And he took an evening out of his time, drove me to some place I had no clue as to where I would have been going, and spent time letting me do research for a paper that had absolutely nothing to do with my major. And that he exemplified a servant heart through that experience that I will never forget, that really influenced me in my life.
Thanks, Dennis. Lisa?
It's so hard. I mean, you can hear it with all of us. It's so hard to narrow it down to one. I think a couple of them that stood out for me was Professor Larry Hafey. He's not here anymore. But I came in my freshman year. I was in his computer class. And College Church at the time had a program that's called SAC program, which is Sponsor a College Kid. And by chance, I got connected with Professor Hafey as my SAC parent. And so him and his wife had me over to their house, I think at least once a month, my whole 4 years in college. And not only was he my professor and my SAC parent, but he also gave me a job in the computer lab and saw something in me as far as working with computers. Now, people would probably laugh now with the tech today, but back then, it was one of those things where he gave me a job to work on campus, and it was such an incredible thing that he saw something that I didn't even see in myself. And it was such an incredible experience, and such a giving man, and a heart for God and a heart for service. And so he was one. Verla Powers, who was in education, was another one. She was one of my advisors, but she challenged me and pushed me academically to be the best teacher that I could be, and to do the best I could in my classes. And then I will tell you this one, Dennis Troyer, sitting right next to me, was my admissions counselor. But my whole 4 years of Mid-America, he was also, him and Dennis Miller took care of me. They invested in me. Dennis came out and I think ate lunch with me and my friends. I don't even know how many times, how many days we could count that. But Dennis Miller would ride with me over. My car broke down. He would ride with me wherever it was. He'd fix it. He'd get it back on campus. He did all kinds of stuff for me. And I was so shocked that somebody would actually take time, even after they were done working in facilities like Dennis Miller did, to take me somewhere else to get my car fixed and to do that, and didn't ask for anything in return. It was just part of who he was. So those 4 people, I think, were probably some of the most influential people that I was here on campus, and wanted for me to be able to give back and do the same thing.
Well, following the lead of the panel here, I'll share a couple as well. I think there's one individual in particular who actually just transitioned from Mid-America. His name was Dr. Mark Hamilton, and he, I actually didn't have him for a speech class, but ended up taking a bunch of classes in my business communications major with him. And I'll never forget, he kind of captured my imagination about what could the future be like. I had not totally seen myself as someone who could be, somebody that would thrive in academic classes a lot. And he really pushed me a little bit, and we had a little bit of a banter. There was a little bit of a tension in our relationship that inspired me to want to learn more and to study and to actually drink the content in, more than just, can I pass this exam or write this paper? But I actually wanted to learn a little bit what Lisa said. I wanted to be like him more than I wanted to learn exactly what he was teaching about. I wanted to be like him. He was really an inspiring person to me. And then the university chaplain at the time was a guy named Dr. Randy Beckham. And, you know, having said I wanted to be like Mark Hamilton, I really wanted to be like Randy as well. If you had asked me when I was graduating from MNU, what do you want to be when you grow up? I would have said, well, I want to be Randy. And they'd say, oh, you want to be a chaplain? And I said, no. I want to be Randy. I want to be him in particular, the way he would love his family, the way he kind of had this kind of saunter that he had. He'd walk around campus and just kind of brush his hair out of his face a little bit. His vision of who God was bigger than I had ever dared to imagine that God could be like. That maybe, just maybe, if God was really like how Randy was describing him, that this story is a good story after all. That God in his mercy really is chasing me down. And that was something I could have never asked for. I didn't even know to ask for it, but it was absolutely transformational.
Thanks, Brady. So I got a question for each of you to think about here, and I'm going to give you just a moment to think about it. But you know, we have a campus filled with passionate, loving students, and I want you to think about ways you've witnessed over the years our students exhibit generosity to one another. And if it can be specific, it can be more in general terms, but oftentimes our students are teaching us just as much as we're teaching them. And so think about those things that you've learned or witnessed that our students, in the way they're exhibiting generosity. And while you're thinking about that, when I think about external generosity and what I've witnessed for board members, community members, alumni, there's just endless stories of generous behavior. But I'm always reminded of Dr. Ray Cook, our former board chair. Dr. Cook passed away maybe three years ago, was the lead supporter for our Cook Center and was named after he and his family. But Dr. Cook was known for walking around campus, walking up to a random student. You guys would love this. You would wish he was here today. And he would hand you cash. It may be $20, it may be $50, it may be a $100 bill, but he would literally walk up to students on campus, hand them cash, and he would say, you looked like you needed walking around money. That's what he called it. You needed walking around money. And he would do these very generous things financially, but he lived an incredibly generous life. So if you had lunch with Ray, who I did many times, I felt like he was genuinely interested in me. The conversation was always asking me how things were going, what books I was reading, how my family was doing. And when I went to his funeral, I found out he treated every single person that same way. And we all thought we had this incredible relationship with Dr. Cook. And the reality is, everyone he knew, he tried to have that relationship, that very generous life. And so now that I've given you a moment, Brady, I'm going to start with you. what are ways you see our students living generous lives with one another?
You bet. So I'm probably most inspired when we have students who want to go and serve all around Kansas City. In fact, this year it's felt a little bit like we're pulling the reins back, trying to keep the horses in the barn, so to speak, as they're eager to go out into our community. And as you know, we give spiritual formation credits when people serve, but oftentimes when we go to collect some of those names and get people credit for those items, they'll say, no, I'm good. I got my spiritual formation credits a long time ago. This opportunity has changed my life. This individual has been really called into service. No matter what their major is, no matter what their vocational calling, but they've been inspired to move into those spaces. Now, that said, we've literally raised tens of thousands of dollars on our campus from a group of people like you who is kind of labeled as, we don't have any money, we don't have enough disposable income to give away, we don't have, but the truth is, over and over again, year after year, thousands of dollars go out from our campus into the world that indeed God loves so much that we've got a narrative on our campus that the world is not our enemy. The world is the location where God has come to love us and the space in which we get to participate. And so Passion to Serve projects, service projects around our campus over and over again, I'm really, almost the word is convicted by how generous students are with their time and with their finances.
Great, thanks. Lisa?
Yeah, I think one of the ways I see it, of course, I work with student leaders on a daily basis with ASG, but I also see it with Spiritual Life, Res Life, as how much time they put in that they're not necessarily getting paid for, quote unquote, but they spend a lot of time on top of what is expected of them to be able to provide one-on-one meetings. I think of our RAs and how much time they put in the dorm and building relationships with our students. But I've also seen students who just, if somebody needs a ride, they'll be like, oh, I can take you. And somebody will come in my office and go, man, I can't believe this happened. But this person, my truck broke down or something broke down, and somebody said, hey, I'll come get you. I'll take you to work. I'll take you here. Or I got this scholarship from somebody that I didn't know was happening. I mean, I see it all the time of students on our campus, whether they're in student leadership positions or not. I see students reaching out to help other students. And there's so many different things. I think with the Passion to Serve, I think that's one of them. But on a personal daily basis, I see students a lot of times just going over and saying, hey, how are you doing? Or I've seen students who somebody may be sitting alone in the caf, and a student just goes, I just felt like I should go over and sit with them. And so they walk over and they sit down, and they're generous with their time. They're generous with spending time with a person that they may not even know, and it may be uncomfortable at first, but they're like, I think I should do this. And so they go and they have a conversation. They end up with a new friend at the end of the time. I see it all the time over how passionate and how serving our students are, and they do it in so many different ways. I've seen students pick up trash on campus, literally just walk down and they see it and they pick it up and they put it in a trash can. So yeah, those are just a few of the ways I've seen.
Dennis?
One of the things that I'm thinking of is a few years ago we had some students that were involved in, I think it was called Burger Boys.
Grilling with the homies.
Grilling with the homies, yeah. They actually went downtown and grilled food for some homeless men. And when they were talking about it, they were so passionate. They were excited. It was something that they looked forward to. And they developed relationships with these men. They would come back and they developed a relationship. It wasn't just a one-time thing of going and helping somebody and patting yourself on the back and saying, well, I did something good. But they got into it. They gave themselves to that. And then just recently, Nathan Sucraw had an accident where one of those bad days of snow a couple weeks ago, he was going down the drive by the soccer practice field, and he hit the curb and messed up his car. And Andrew Sampson and Tristan Hendricks and Clayton Cook, if I've got that right, Andrew said, well, you can take, because at first he took it to an automotive repair place, and they told him how much it was going to be, and he just couldn't afford it. So he looked online, got parts. Andrew Sampson said, you can bring the car over to our place and put it in our driveway. And then Tristan Hendricks and Clayton Cook spent most of, I believe it was last Saturday or a week ago Saturday, whenever it was, giving of their time to help Nathan rebuild his car without asking anything in return. They just gave of their time to a friend. And those kinds of examples happen all the time, things that we don't know about, but it happens all the time in this kind of a community.
That's great. Don?
Yeah, when you asked that question, I thought of a couple very specific events. One happened to me, actually, from students, and it was last fall in my ethics class. All athletes except for one person, and we were in groups, and this one group were all male athletes, to be exact. And we were talking about a worldview and how we can make decisions based on our worldview in several different dimensions. And I got on the dimension of, what do you believe about the creation of the cosmos, the creation of the world? I gave them several examples of possible belief systems that they could have. And then I just mentioned that when I was a pastor, I had a little scientific book which had a very non-scientific title. It was called From Goo to You by Way of the Zoo. And it was actually a debunk of basic evolutionary thought. And I said, I loaned that book to somebody in the church and I never got it back. Little did I know that one of the students in this one group had his laptop while I was teaching, got on Amazon, found the book, and in class they presented me with that gift of that little book. Cost them 99 cents. I don't know how they split it among the 5 of them, but it cost 99 cents. But to me, it is the greatest treasure that I have in my library because it came from students. And I had them all sign it and autograph it. And I have it, and I'm never loaning that one out. The other event just happened a couple of weeks ago. I teach personal development of the minister for seniors, our senior ministry majors on their exit out of our program. And one of the students emailed me very early in the morning and said that a friend of hers had just committed suicide and she did not know if she would be in class or not. I said, that's fine. You do what needs to be done. I'll be praying for you. Well, she did come to class, and wouldn't you know it, this was her day to do the scriptural reflection for the class. And I said, you don't need to if you don't want to. She said, I do. She did, and then she left the room. As soon as she left the room, I said to the students, here's an opportunity. You're going to deal with this in your future ministry. Here's an opportunity to minister to someone. So when she came back in class, I turned it over to the class, and those students rallied around her like I've never seen before. They came around her, and Karen Sanchez prayed the most beautiful, lamenting prayer I've ever heard over this student. And I was blown away by the generosity of their care of this student.
Well, I've seen generosity from students. I guess the Passion to Serve projects, you know, when Brady and I met just not too long ago to talk about those and review those, and to think that students, we've given 60,000, 40,000, 20,000, and there's clinics across the world, there's educational facilities, I mean, that have been changed, the lives of people across the world, you know, have been changed by students. It was so amazing to me. And then the Go groups, just to hear the ideas of students who come up with the Go group that's going to do random acts of kindness, the Go group that's going to write letters to people and notes to people. And I've been a recipient of some of those letters. And so to see ideas birthed from students is so inspiring. And that they, you know, from all across the spectrum, from it's free, we just give our time, to we give our dollars, we travel there. I've just, over the years, just been really blown away by the generosity of students.
Yeah, in all my years at Heart to Heart International, you know, I had the privilege of going to a lot of these places. And so, Dennis, when you talked about the burger guys, well, I knew all about those experiences and their impact, but those same folks said, let's go to Panajachel, Guatemala, in a community of 900 people, and let's build them a clinic because they have no health care. Mm-hmm. So that same group of students funded a clinic that today is helping mothers deliver babies. It's this huge ripple effect of kids being sick, and you think about COVID, and there's these beacons of hope around the world because of our students and the impact that they're having. And to me, it's truly remarkable. I've got a colleague, Dr. Mark Dillon, who's up at Wheaton, and he gave me his book. He's kind of a guru about giving and generosity. He gave me his book a few years back, and he's got a quote in there that I just really love, and it says, "Giving at its best is not a self-motivated act of philanthropy, but a joyful response to a prior gift, the grace of God in Christ." And I think about all of the stories of generosity throughout the history of MNU. We have remarkable stories of people doing just that. It's their reaction to God's grace in their lives, and I have to do, like you started, Brady, I'm still paying my debt back. I'm still giving back. And I think about Dr. Otto Thiel, who started our Honorary Alumni Association before we had alums. And for his entire adult life, he raised money for MNU as if he was one of our alums. He wasn't. So we have an incredible history of generosity. We've seen it through our Bright Futures campaign, $61 million that has been given in the last few years for this university because they believe in what we're doing. So I'm going to put you on the spot. Brady, I'm going to start with you. I want you to tell me how many times you think someone gave a gift to MNU through the Bright Futures campaign.
How many times?
How many gifts have we received for the Bright Futures campaign? So it's not about the dollars, but every single time somebody said, "I believe in you. I believe in you." How many times did that happen in Bright Futures?
Oh,
Sure.
it's
Colleen will get
the
you a prize.
is being built right outside here.
Right.
Right? Have you guys played Wits and Wagers? It feels like
It
that.
does
like,
feel like
and like you have no idea. We're just gonna take a wild guess.
Dr. North, I am going to guess 300.
300 individual gifts throughout the entire Bright Futures.
I'm going to guess 3,000.
Okay.
I've prayed about it, and
3,000 gifts.
He has to go with his first
Yeah.
answer.
I'm sorry, I'm not good at wits and wagers.
Okay. All right, Lisa?
I was in my head the number like 1,000, 1,500, so I'm going to go 1,500.
Dennis?
I'm not good at prices right, but I'm going to go 10,000, Bob.
Okay. Don?
Well, I was going to say 1563, so I'll just stick with that.
1563.
Way to get me
Okay.
out.
Okay, so we got 300 is the low, and
No, I was 3,000.
oh, 3,000. Okay,
15,000 and some change.
1563. 1560.
1,500. Okay, so the lowest.
If you like 15,000, I can do that too.
Okay.
The high bid is 10,000.
Okay, 10,001.
Okay. All of you need to expand your faith.
Wow. Seriously?
So from the beginning of our Bright Futures campaign to raise $62 million, our office has received 42,000 gifts.
That is awesome.
So 42,000 times someone said,
According to the Price is Right, I win.
we believe in the MNU mission and the way you transform lives.
Wow.
So when I think about generosity, it's, Brady, like what you said about Randy's view of how big God is. We have a very generous community, a very generous alumni base, very generous students, and that's really what Tag Week is all about, is all of us celebrating, and you've said in various ways today, we need to celebrate the way we live generous lives towards one another. And just like God, it is way, way bigger than we would ever dream or hope or imagine. And so with that in mind, why do you feel like it's important that alumni give back to their institutions? And Lisa, I'm going to start with you first this time.
Okay. I think it's important because I think you've heard it from all of us about how our lives were changed at our university, which is here at Mid-America. It's a transformational experience. I think it's important because it allows people who are coming in after us, students who are after us, to be able to experience the same type of experience hopefully we had in different ways, but to be able to continue that mission and that ministry. That's one of the reasons why I came back to Mid-America to work, was because I loved my time here. And because of the people that invested in me, I wanted to be able to come back and do the same thing for students that are here today. And to be able to be a faculty or staff member that showed the love of Christ to the students that we come in contact with. So I think that's one of the most important things. And it's not just, I think money is a big part of it. I think the financial part is giving back. I think that's huge because that allows Mid-America to continue our ministry and continue the influence that we have in our lives of our students. But I also think that giving of time and coming back to homecomings and letting our current students see our alumni come back and be a part of our campus community and the experiences and the memories and the fun that they had and the friendships that they've developed that have stayed over 30, 40 years, I think is another way that our students can say, wow, this is a pretty interesting place. This is a community. We talk about being community, we talk about being family, and I think by alumni giving back, that allows our current students to see that part of it and to see the community and the family that we have here. That stretches over all our years, not just why we're here.
Dennis?
It's about keeping this university strong and viable. And here, long after we're gone, we're not just planting trees that we won't see, but hopefully we're teaching young people to be tree planters 20 years from now for those that they won't see, that somebody else will benefit from it, that they will have the same kind of opportunity to experience life-changing times, relationships, challenges. My wife and I both work here, and when we both came, we both took a pay cut, but we both felt God's definite direction to be here. And the great thing about it is, He has provided all that time. Doesn't mean it's been easy, but we have never been in a position to where we didn't know what was coming next, because He has taken care of us, particularly because we feel like we've been faithful with what He's asked us to do.
Thanks. Don?
It reminded me of a phrase, I suppose 15 years ago, it was probably the woke phrase of that day. Do you remember? Pay it forward.
Yeah.
Some of you have never heard of it because I don't hear it much anymore. But pay it forward. And people would go through McDonald's and pay for the person behind them. And it just kind of swept the country. And I wish we'd kind of think about that a little bit more. And I need to think about that more. So when I did my master's work at Fort Hays State, which is a secular university here in the state of Kansas, I had a professor that he said, now that you're about to graduate, you have a code of ethics to keep. And he said, it's a code of ethics of the knowledge seeker. And one element of that code was you have an educational debt. You have been taught, you have learned, and now you need to pay that forward to other students. And I've always remembered that. And so I think as alumni, we have whatever that represents. And for me, it's teaching, and it's money as well, but for teaching, that's my debt to pay forward.
I think, I mentioned that Mid-America ended up being the best financial offer that I got in terms of scholarships. Well, that's because somebody was giving money in order that I could have a scholarship. And we know the sticker price of MNU is not low, but students come here and it's affordable because of scholarshiping. And so I know my life was changed here. I sat in the seats of Mets and felt called to come back to this place and hopefully play a pivotal role in somebody else's life as they were making career choices, relationship choices, all the stuff. I wanted to be a part of that. And so a lot of that had to do with I had financial support to be here as a student, and I want students to have that same opportunity that I've had. And so I just think that it doesn't have to be huge. I always think start small. This is why I love the Passion to Serve project, because students got used to giving $2 a week, $2 a week. And then, so when you graduate, give 5, and then a few years later, give 10, or, and just keep raising that amount. So there was a certain point in my life when we decided whenever I got a raise, whatever that would be, we weren't gonna live at a higher level. It was to give, or to put in retirement or whatever, but we weren't gonna live on more, because, you just at some point say, we wanna give, we wanna support. You want this university to be a great place. You wanna be proud of it when you're done and that your degree is from here. And so you want the university to thrive and have a new program and do some great thing and send a student a great place. And to be a piece of that, a part of that, it just seems like a great opportunity.
Yeah, it's all around us, and we just don't recognize it all the time. And so when you take a step back and you realize that in 1966, one businessman said, I believe a Christian university in our community would be a really good thing. And that's because a pastor in the community talked to him about it. That one businessman recruited 10 other business owners in Olathe, and the 11 of them pooled their resources, bought our campus, gave it to us debt-free. One of them was a builder and built the road coming up into the circle, put it in for us on our behalf. They thought, we're still not done. They went to the city and they said, we need you to give money to the college. And the city taxed themselves $1.5 million in 1966 to build our first 5 buildings. And one of those leaders was R.R. Osborne, a banker in town, and he was legendary on our campus, and he would find out our needs, and he would take our basketball coach. We needed a basketball floor one year in Land Gym. He took our basketball coach by the hand. They drove down Main Street in Olathe and went business by business. And he said, this is worth investing in. Let's get behind it. This building we're in was paid for by donor dollars. Our student center is going to be paid for by our alums, by our community members, every building on campus. And I think that understanding of generosity, that when you can understand, I am here and have the benefits I have because someone else sacrificed, it allows us to live a generous life that to me is the best life to live. To just say, God has given us remarkable blessings. And that's the other thing I love. We talked about our cross-cultural experiences. That's what I love. That's what Mid-America taught me as a student. I grew up in the 5th richest county in the world, the county we live in. I had a view of the world based on the 5th richest county. And because of MNU, I went on international trips and had experiences that showed me we're really, really blessed, and that comes with a lot of responsibility. And so, there's a whole lot to celebrate. There's a whole lot to be thankful for. And I'm thankful for all of you and the time you've spent with us today and the way you serve our students and all of the extra hard work this year in particular, and the way you give and live generous lives for our students. And want to thank all of our students for the ways they live generous lives and help the university as well. And with that, I think we'll wrap it up. Thanks, everybody.